Hello everyone. This week we've got a double bill of Bishop's Saints as we look at both Sophie Scholl and John Henry Newman. Now, Sophie was a German student at the University of Munich during the Second World War who led an underground non-violent resistance group against the Nazi Party, and John Henry Newman was a 19th century British priest and theologian who lived in Oxford. So how are they connected? Well, first let's look at Newman, who was the vicar of the University Church in the centre of Oxford, a position which at the time meant he was a bit of a celebrity. People were much more into church in those days. Because of his status and his brilliant theological mind, many of his sermons, which are the talks that we give in church services or assemblies, were published so that people all over the world could enjoy them. Newman believed that our conscience, that feeling we have about whether something is right or wrong, is actually our connection to God, and that if we learn to listen to it through faith and prayer, then we will be closer to God and so live better lives. His motto was "Heart speaks unto heart," which means that the heart of God, the love of God, speaks directly to us, and that it is our duty to open our hearts, to listen, and so learn to love God and our neighbours as Jesus commanded us to do. Newman recognised, though, that this isn't always easy and can lead to difficult and even unpopular decisions. For example, the parish where Newman was vicar stretched from central Oxford all the way out to a then remote and poor village called Littlemore. The people of Littlemore were expected to walk the 6-mile round trip every time they wished to come to church. Newman's heart told him that this wasn't right or fair, and so he set about building a church in Littlemore. It was a difficult and unpopular task, and he had very little support, but using his own money and donations from friends and family, he managed to build a small and very special church for the people of Littlemore, and from then on walked the 6-mile round trip himself to be with the parishioners in their new church. I was actually part of this church community before we moved to Newquay, whilst I was studying in Oxford. Now, Sophie Scholl was born in Germany 30 years after Newman died, but was introduced to his work by teachers at her university. And in Newman's sermons and beliefs about conscience and the duty of Christians to always seek to do what is best for everyone rather than just themselves, Sophie found hope in the midst of fear. You see, Sophie grew up under the Nazi regime, but her faith and beliefs meant that she was opposed to Hitler and everything he stood for. She could have just kept her head down like millions of other Germans who were justifiably terrified of speaking up against the Nazis. But Sophie came to believe that this wasn't an option, and that she must make a stand against the terror and hatred of the Nazi Party, no matter the cost. She was quoted as saying, "How can we expect righteousness to prevail when there is hardly anyone who will give themselves up undividedly to a righteous cause?" Sophie, along with her brother and a group of friends, set up a secret society called the White Rose, who set about writing pamphlets against the Nazis, hoping to inspire others to rise up against them. They secretly distributed the pamphlets, which were full of John Henry Newman's work and ideas, all over the city and beyond, knowing that if they got caught, they would face execution. By day then they were just an ordinary group of friends who spent their time together in classes, at the cinema and the theatre, and hiking in the countryside. But at night they would sneak through the dark streets patrolled by SS guards, secretly delivering pamphlets to people all over the city. Unfortunately, Sophie and the others were eventually caught by the Gestapo, the Nazi secret police force. At first, they believed that Sophie was innocent and were going to let her go, but she confessed her guilt to protect others and was executed a few days later. To stand up against Hitler and the Nazi Party, sadly, usually meant death, which is why the White Rose were one of only a very small number of people who were ever brave enough to do it. And they were just a bunch of kids with faith, just like you. Someone managed to smuggle some of the pamphlets out of Munich after Sophie's death, and they found their way to Britain, where the Allies made millions of copies of them and dropped them from aeroplanes all over Germany, inspiring more and more ordinary Germans to rise up against the Nazis and help bring the war to an end. Sophie's most famous quote, perhaps, is this: "Stand up for what you believe in, even if you are standing alone." Sophie's faith has gone on to inspire people all over the world, just as she was inspired by John Henry Newman's faith before her, and he by those saints who came before him. Never be afraid then to speak and act in the name of God. You never know what it might achieve. If we look at our school values, I think the two which stand out for me for both John Henry and Sophie are courage and justice. Can you think of how they embody any of our other values? I thought we'd end this week with a prayer written by John Henry Newman, which I think sums up both his life and Sophie's, and, if we let it, our lives also. It goes like this: God has created me to do him some definite service. He has committed some work to me which he has not committed to another. I have my mission. I may never know it in this life, but I shall be told it in the next. I am a link in a chain, a bond of connection between persons. He has not created me for nothing. I shall do good. I shall do his work. I shall be an angel of peace, a preacher of truth in my own place, while not intending it if I do but keep his commandments. Therefore I will trust him. Whatever I am, I can never be thrown away. Amen. God bless.